Good morning, Danny. It is December 6th. I just recorded an entire video and then I just found out the sound was off, so now I have to re-record the entire thing. So here we go. Since you asked me if I had ever hit the running wall before, and spoiler alert, I definitely have, I thought I would just talk about my entire experience with running. So way back in middle school, or what was actually junior high for me because my school hadn't switched over to middle school yet, we had to run this terrible, grueling thing called the perimeter for our running experience in physical education. For the uninitiated, the perimeter was where they took young hormonal children and have them run around all the various sports fields of the school. And that run around the perimeter was my first entire running experience. And I will be the first person to tell you that I hated that run. And it sucked. So a couple months after the teachers had us run that horrible perimeter and we had all had it ingrained in our brain, and maybe they assumed, you know what? You know what would be a really good judge of character? Running an entire mile for a 13-year-old. Danny, I sucked at that one too. I couldn't even run the entire mile. I had to walk so many different times. I was one of the last people to finish. So both the experience of running the mile and the perimeter kind of put me off of running for a long decade or so. Now we're gonna fast forward all the way to 3 years ago, which is actually rewinding now, but don't worry about that. Time works in linear progression ways. My roommate, who I was living with at the time, had just picked up running, and I had just started cultivating my life goal list. And of course, how can you have a life goal list that doesn't have complete a marathon on it? So I figured this was as good a time as any to start running. The first couple months of training, I hated it. I hated every minute of it. It was not fun for me at all. I was just doing it because I was like, this is a life goal that I need to complete. But it wasn't until I hit about 6 miles or an hour's worth of running where I found the wonderful nature that is the runner's high. Now, I've never done drugs before, but this was the most magical thing that I have ever felt in my life. But like I said, it took about an hour's worth of running for my body to decide that it was going to reward me for doing this horrible thing to it. And for anyone who tells you, oh, the runner's high isn't a thing, I run 3 miles all the time. Dude, I got news for you, you're not running long enough. If you never run longer than a half hour, you will never, ever love running. Passing that half hour mark is something truly special. Your entire mindset about running starts to change and you decide that you like it. Maybe, kind of a little. However, it wasn't until I ran my Seattle half marathon, where the weather was 40 degrees outside and rainy, where I truly fell in love with running. Running 13.1 miles is one of the greatest accomplishments I have ever done, and you feel tired but so amazing afterward. But here's the part where I'm going to talk about the wall. While I was training for that race, there was one particular run where it was in between about 8 and 9 miles where my body just decided that it was going to shut down. But I think saying body is not the right word because it wasn't like my legs were tired or that I couldn't breathe or that I was exhausted or anything. It was that my brain told me I couldn't run anymore physically. Like I was just done running and that was the end of it. So I literally had to tell my brain, F you, I'm finishing this run. Every time I look back or talk about this experience, I remember exactly how I felt during that moment. It was like a weird combination of a complete lack of confidence and just total utter despair. And it was a totally new feeling that I had never felt before in my life, and it was completely terrifying. So I suppose you're just gonna have to keep running, little brother. I'll see you on Monday.